Welcome to the Stoichiometry 101 video. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a couple of problems going from grams to moles, moles to grams, and also grams to grams. The first problem we're going to look at here is question number 1. How many moles of O2 are needed to react with 22.6 grams of ammonia? First thing we want to do is ask ourselves, what is this question asking? And the answer to that is, how many moles of O2 are needed to react with 22.6 grams of ammonia? So the first step to all of these problems is to write down what we start out with, and what we know. So for that, we're going to write down 22.6 grams of NH3 over 1. And then the next step is to always convert to moles. And to do that, we divide by the molar mass. So molar mass for ammonia is 17.04 grams in 1 mole of NH3. Now that we have converted to moles, we can then use our mole ratio, which we get from the balanced equation. So right up here, our balanced equation, we get our mole ratio of NH3 to O2. Now when we use our mole ratio, we always want to put what we want on top and what we have on the bottom. So what we have is moles of NH3, and if we look up top, we see that it's 4. So 4 moles NH3. Now what we want is O2, and if we look at the top here, we have 7 O2 from the balanced equation. So 7 mole O2. Now if we go back and look, we can see that when we cancel, so grams of NH3, grams, moles NH3, moles NH3, we are only going to be left with moles of O2, which is what the question wants. And doing the calculations, we get 2.32 moles of O2. Now, let's do one that's a little different. So instead of starting out with grams, we're going to start out with moles. So number 6 here. How many grams, so now we're trying to find grams, of NH3 are needed to produce 2.34 moles of NO2? Now, even though we are going to be starting from moles, it's still the same process. So we write down what we have. 2.34 moles NO2. Over 1. Now, since we're already in moles, we do not have to convert to moles, so we can skip that step and go right to the mole ratio. Now if we look back at the top, we look at NH3 to NO2, we see it's 4 NH3 to 4 NO2. So now we're going to use that in the ratio. Keeping in mind, 4 mole NO2 goes on the bottom, so it cancels out, and our 4 mole NH3 goes on top because that is what we want. Now if we were to stop here, we would end up with just grams. But the question asks for how many grams of NH3. So now we need to go one more step and take our moles of NH3 convert it into grams of NH3. Now in order to convert from moles to grams, we need to do what? Multiply by molar mass. So 1 mole of NH3 is 17.04 grams. And making sure that we cancel here, moles NO2, moles NO2, mole NH3, mole NH3, we end up with 39.9 grams of NH3. Now here we're going to look at problem number 9. Now 9 is a little bit different because instead of going from either moles to grams or grams to moles, we're going to be going from grams to grams. So this is going to require one extra step from before. Now I copy and pasted our reaction just under the problem so we can easily reference it here. And first thing, just like in every single problem, we're just going to start out by writing what we know. So we're going to write 4.2 grams of O2 over 1. And then just like we've done before, the first thing we always have to do is convert it into moles. So we're going to take our 4.2 grams and we're going to divide it by the molar mass of O2, which is 32 grams in 1 mole of O2. Okay, now that we have converted to moles, we are now able to use the mole ratio. And our question asks, or what it wants, is how many grams of NO2. So we're going to use the NO2 on top. So if we look at our equation, we see 4 mole NO2. And we see that right here with the 4. And that goes over what we have. Now we have O2. So we look here to O2 and we see the 7. So then it's 7 mole O2. Now if we were to stop here, our final answer, if we check our canceling, moles O2 cancels, would be moles of NO2. But remember, our question wants grams of NO2. So now we need to do one more step and go to grams of NO2 by multiplying by molar mass. And the molar mass of NO2 is 46.01 grams in 1 mole NO2. And you should get 3.45 grams of NO2. Now these same steps can be applied to every single problem. 1. Always write down what you know. So that's here, write down what we know. 2. Always go to moles. So here we're going to moles. If you start out with moles, then you do not have to go to moles because it's already in moles. Then here we apply our mole ratio, keeping in mind we get our numbers from the balanced equation, so 4 and O2, that's where it came from, the balanced chemical equation. 7 mole O2, 7 there. And then if we want to go to grams, we have to multiply the molar mass of what we want. And since we want NO2, we have to multiply by the molar mass of NO2.